Good morning. This is our second lecture video on the subject of ethics. So basically we are discussing ethics and human interface, and this is actually the second part of that topic, ethics and human interface. So lecture 1 was first part and lecture 2 is second part. So moving right along, so we have been discussing a lot of things regarding what is the meaning of ethics, what is the meaning of morality, what is the difference between ethics and morality, and how is it important? Why is it important in the sense that why does society need to be ethical? So we have discussed all of those things in the last part. In the present part, we are going to be discussing a lot about values. What are the meaning of values? Why is having values important? How are values different from ethics? So these words come very close to each other: ethics, morality, values, etc., etc. They come very close to each other. So we need to be able to sort of distinguish between these words. So what is the meaning of this word values, right? So it is a very individual kind of a thing. It is, you look at the keywords that I have put in front of you. You can see preferences, you can see importance, you can see anchor to a ship. Now let us say that there is an individual ship, and every individual ship has an anchor, right? So every individual human being needs to have certain anchors. Now why is that important? I have to have some way of thinking, some pattern of thinking, so that I can sort of guide myself. I can have some sort of a rationale, the basis on which I think, my likes and dislikes, my desires and my my preferences. Why is this important? Like, I'm not going to be wanting to evaluate a situation from scratch all the time. So what my mind does is that it sort of it forms a predisposition, it forms certain sort of preferences, certain sorts of ways of thinking and doing things, and that essentially are my values. So my idea is that it sort of helps me to determine what will be the course of action that I would want to take. Now herein comes the distinction between values and ethics. So essentially, values is what, if I'm thinking like I'm trying to sort of think that this is what I like and this is what I don't like, that reflects my value. Let us say that I actually act upon my values, and then the society judges my action to be right. So to that extent, my action is ethical, and if the society judges my action to be wrong, to that extent, my action is unethical. Now, I'm not saying that if society says it's right, it's right. If society says it's wrong. What I'm trying to say is that values is basically the internal part of it, and ethics is sort of the external part of it, right? To that extent, we need to understand the distinction between values and ethics. Going ahead, we will elaborate further upon it. But these are some of the key words that you have to sort of keep in mind: individual principles, importance of something or action. That is basically the values. Broad preferences, anchor to a ship. It helps individual in a crisis to the extent that let us say that I have suddenly entered into poverty, and my value of honesty, right? So it doesn't mean that if I'm rich, when I was rich I'll be honest, when I'm poor I'll suddenly become a crook. No, I will remain honest even under troubled circumstances. Now if I don't remain honest and even under troubled circumstances, then honesty was never really my primary value or my very fast held value to start with. It was just something that I was okay with while the circumstances were right, and something that I discarded when circumstances were wrong. But that doesn't happen for values. If you say that this is your value system, then that value, if you say that you have certain values, then those values should especially be manifested while you are in a situation of crisis. Why is this important? As a bureaucrat, it is very easy to be obeying the laws when everything is going in your favor. When things start to go against you, when people start turning against you, when your seniors, when your juniors, when your peers, for that matter, or for example there is a political pressure upon you, or your family puts pressure upon you, and at that point in time you sort of you leave your values aside. To that extent, you are never really concerned about your values to start with. So these are some of the things that even UPSC is going to ask us, and to that extent we need to be ready in our own minds, and even in the life we have to be ready to that extent. So moving right ahead, so what are some of the examples? When I say values, what are some examples? So let's say I put some examples in front of you. Let us say that we respect a lot of we respect equality of rights, we respect excellence, or we admire excellence for that matter. We respect people's dignity, everybody's dignity for that matter, right? So these can be some examples of value, right? And so essentially an individual can also have value, and even an organization can have value. See, again, going back to the definition, what is value? Something that you think is important, something that you think is paramount, something that you think should be observed in your day-to-day actions. Now, who are you? You can be an individual or you can be an organization. So similarly, even organizations sort of define their values, which are best reflected in that organization's vision statements. Many a times it is straightforwardly written that these are our cherished values. So for example, in army, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity and personal courage. You can understand the importance of each and every term so far as the army is concerned. I cannot dwell too much into it, but why is, let us say, selfless service important? Look, if we are five guys and we are going for an operation, and if I am selfish and I am not going to be putting my neck on the line when the situation demands it, the other guys are also not going to be putting their neck on the line when the situation demands it. As a result of which, the kind of passion that we should be having towards our own mission will be missing if all of us do not have this value of selfless service ingrained within us. So basically the values of the organization must also sort of instill into the individuals who are working in that organization. You can understand what will happen if the value is written only on paper, or is only obeyed by few and disobeyed by few, or is not observed by few. So stated values will be different and operational values will be different, right? That is not what is desirable. And if every member of the team doesn't exhibit the same set of values, then we are going to be having a serious set of problems. It is going to be like this, right? Every finger will be different. We will not be able to form a fist, we will not be able to form a tight bundle. To that extent, values are very, very important, as it guides an individual's behavior while that individual is within that organization. And only then can that organization's goals be efficiently and effectively achieved, right? Similarly, an hospital has values, similarly schools have values. I've just given you a number of examples to get my point across. Where do these values originate from? So there are like two strands of thought. The first strand of thought is that it comes from within. So like we are all human beings, right? And there is some sort of programming that God does within us, right? Even while we have been sent into this world, that's the way we are, that's our DNA kind of thing. So that is our intrinsic humanness. मतलब हमारे अंदर का जो मतलब जो बोलते हैं ना एक मानवता है, something on those lines. So to that extent, we have some of it. We will look at some basic values going ahead, basic human values, which all of us sort of have. We just have to access it within ourselves. And then there are values that we acquire from our surrounding, and surrounding can mean many things. So values can both sort of flow. So essentially, if I use this thing of geography, let us say that Bhagirathi plus Alaknanda is equals to Ganga. Similarly, my values internally from within me, flowing from within me, and values that I have acquired from outside is equals to the values that I will be exhibiting going ahead, right? So that's a little bit about origination of values. Again, coming to the distinction between values and ethics, and this is the most key takeaway, most important takeaway out of this lecture. So ethics are basically general norms of conduct equally applicable for all members. But as I said, that every ship has its own anchor, every individual has his or her own set of values. So my set of values may be a little different from your set of values, but to the extent that we are a part of the same organization, we have to sort of realign our values to that of the organization's value as much as we can. Because if there is too much dichotomy, if there is too much divergence, we will not be able to fit into the organization. What are they? So far as ethics, the system of moral principles. Values are a stimuli for thinking, right? That sort of ethics sort of guides me that मेरे को ऐसा करना चाहिए और ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए, and values मेरे को सोचने पे मजबूर कर देगा कि मुझे क्या करना चाहिए, what is my preference, मेरे को मेरे हिसाब से क्या सही है. कंसिस्टेंसी की बात अगर हम करें तो एथिक्स सबके ऊपर लागू रहेगा वही वाला उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में. वैल्यूज कैन डिफर टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट. Ethics sort of tells us that what is morally correct in this situation, and values sort of tell us that what is it that we want to do or we want to achieve. It is a very personal kind of an orientation. What determines ethics, what determines, or what does ethics determine and what does value determine? So ethics determines, as I said, the rightness of the action, and value determines the importance of that course of action for me. So if Let us say that, and that is what I was trying to tell you in the beginning, that if what I believe is important actually turns out to be right, that means that my value system is in consonance with the ethical principles of the broader society that I am a part of. So to that extent, I will be safe, I will be happy, I will be not troubled. Ethics sort of constrains an individual कि आप ये नहीं कर सकते हैं, etc., etc., and value sort of motivates me personally as to what is it that I want to do and what is it that I want to achieve. Again, as I said, that there is not a single value that is sort of guiding us, right? There are multiple set of values. Like for example, let us again talk about nutrition. So we are not just undertaking a diet of carbohydrates only, right? We are undertaking a number of other items also. We are taking some kind of vitamins, some kind of protein, some kind of carbohydrates, some kind of fats, so on and so forth. Similarly, there is not just one value that we have to be sort of having. There are multiple values that we have. So it can be candor, it can be courage, it can be honesty, it can be truthfulness, it can be commitment to work, right? So these are, and of course values pertain to different aspects of life, which is something that I'll be discussing ahead. That personal sphere के अंदर, professional sphere के अंदर, social sphere के अंदर, right? So there can be different spheres of our life, different aspects of our life, and our value system may have values reflecting what is it that we want to achieve in those various spheres. So to that extent, so it helps me define to myself who I am. We often ask ourselves, am I this? Am I really this? Do I really want to do this? Do I care about this? Do I believe in this? And I ask these questions in various aspects of my life, and whatever answers I give, it sort of helps me define to myself who I am. So it sort of gives me the anchor of identity, the belief that I am this individual. So to that extent, sort of we have this kind of a value system, and as we were discussing, values as well as value system exist as much for an individual as for an institution. Now this figure is in front of you. As I was discussing with you, I'll move myself aside, that there is my questions related to personal growth, there are questions related to my spirituality, there are questions related to health and wellness, there are questions related to professional development, and then there are questions related to social love or relationship. Now each of these aspects sort of asks me a question, that what is it that I want, and what is it that I believe in, and what is it that I desire, and what is it that is important for me, and whatever answers I give for each aspect of this, to that extent I am developing sort of my value system. This is essentially an exercise wherein you can understand your own value system. You can have a look at it if you like, but I'm just trying to make my point clear to you. Now, since we are not discussing this subject in a vacuum, and we are discussing it in the overall framework of public administration and overall framework of governance, so on and so forth. So we have to sort of converge these two streams, that what are the kind of values that should be my guiding principles in public administration. See, because at the end of the day, there are some demands there are some demands that the public administrator has to meet in his or her day-to-day life. So, and there are some aspects, there are some definitions of right actions and wrong actions, right? So to that extent, we have to be sort of realign our internal values such that we are in alignment with the ethical requirements of the public administration system. So we have to have sort of let us just look at legality and rationality, that whatever actions that I take should be as per laws and based upon reasons and facts and observations. They should not be based on my whims and fancies and wills and desires alone. Responsibility and accountability: I am responsible for my action, and you can ask me to give an account for my action, to explain my action. For example, you may remember that movie in which Nana Patekar comes in front of some committee and gives some reasons for the action that they had taken. Some movie related to Bombless, I have forgotten the name of the movie. So not only should you hold yourself personally responsible for the actions that have been taken, but you are also accountable to others. वर्क कमिटमेंट आपके अंदर होना चाहिए. स्वामी विवेकानंद का एक बहुत बढ़िया कोट है आपके सामने, एक्सेलेंस के पीछे आप भागेंगे तो जाके आपके काम के अंदर एक मतलब जो बोलते हैं ना, एक एफिशिएंसी आएगी और एक इफेक्टिवनेस आएगा. यू शुड बी रिस्पॉन्सिव. अगर किसी की कोई ज़रूरत है, किसी की कोई नीड है, तो आप उसको पूरा करने की इच्छा रखनी चाहिए और आप उसको पूरा करने के लिए एक्शन लेने के लिए मोटिवेट होने चाहिए. दैट इज़ द आइडिया ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिवनेस. रेजिलियंस का मतलब ये है कि सपोज कर लीजिए कि मतलब आप सिस्टम के बनाए हुए रूल्स को फॉलो करना है, लेकिन फॉर एनी रीजन कुछ स्पेशल सर्कमस्टांसेस आ जाते हैं तो आप शायद उन रूल्स को बाईपास करेंगे, शायद आप उस फ्रेमवर्क को बाईपास करेंगे, बट देन यू शुड कम बैक to the same framework, you should come back to the same set of values, you should come back to the same set of principles as early as the situation normalizes. You should not get into this habit of creating a special set of rules for yourself. Then of course you should have the idea that your actions should ensure greatest good of the greatest number. सपोज कर लीजिए कि आपके फैमिली को मच्छर काट रहे हैं, आप डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, तो ये का मतलब ये नहीं कि आप घर चेंज कर लें, इसके अंदर आपको ये करना चाहिए कि वो जो एरिया के अंदर मच्छर का प्रॉब्लम है उसको सॉल्व कर दीजिए, तो उससे क्या होगा कि ग्रेटेस्ट गुड ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट नंबर इंक्लूडिंग योर फैमिली. सो डोंट टेक एक्शन ओनली फॉर योरसेल्फ, टेक एक्शन फॉर टेकिंग इनटू फैक्ट दैट एवरीबॉडी विल बेनिफिट. नेशनल इंटरेस्ट को ध्यान में रखते हुए अपने को काम करना है, जस्टिस को ध्यान में रखते हुए काम करना है. ऑब्जेक्टिविटी का मतलब ये है कि जो भी एक्शन लेंगे उसमें कोई कास्ट, क्लास, रेस, जेंडर, रिलीजन, प्लेस ऑफ बर्थ, ये सारी चीज़ों को हम ध्यान में रखते हुए एक्शन नहीं लेने वाले हैं. जो भी एक्शन हम लेने वाले हैं, जो भी डिसीजन लेने वाले हैं, वो बेस्ड प्योरली अपॉन यूनिवर्सल इंडिकेटर्स हम लेने वाले हैं और किसी के लिए स्पेशल कंसिडरेशन नहीं देने वाले हैं. इस प्रकार से ट्रांसपेरेंसी होनी चाहिए हमारे एक्शंस के अंदर, ताकि कोई भी देख सके कि क्या होने लग रहा है, क्या नहीं होने लग रहा है, किस बेसिस पे एक्शन लिया जाने लग रहा है, कितने फंड्स आए थे, कितना फंड यूटिलाइज करा है, कैसे खरीदा, क्या खरीदा, सब कुछ सबके सामने होता हुआ चलना चाहिए, ऑब्वियसली नेशनल सिक्योरिटी को ध्यान में रखते हुए. एंड देन देयर शुड बी इंटीग्रिटी. नाउ यू विल अंडरस्टैंड द मीनिंग ऑफ दीज वर्ड्स गोइंग अहेड अ लिटिल बेटर. The idea is that see, why is all this important? So we know that public relations have become extremely important in the present situation. So the laws have changed, we have right to information in place, we have social audits in place, we have Jan Sunwais in place, we have people's participation in place, we have local governance in place, various acts, various laws, for example forest right acts, for example Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act. These laws require the participation of populace of the Janata Janardhan in the day-to-day administration process at the grassroots level. So the idea is that, and it helps, अगर आपको मालूम ही नहीं है कि जनता का काम अच्छा जा रहा है नहीं जा रहा है, जनता की ग्रीवांसेस क्या हैं, तो आप अच्छा काम नहीं दे सकते हैं. एंड गिवन द फैक्ट कि सब जगह ट्विटर आ गया, लोग फोटो निकाल के डाल देंगे, लोग वीडियो निकाल के डाल देंगे, लोग अपने कंप्लेंट्स को जज जाहिर करेंगे. Taking all these factors into consideration, it is extremely important that we are managing the public relations well, because it is an indispensable part. Now what do I mean by managing the public relations well? So there has to be some sort of ethical conduct even within public relationship. The idea is that we want to develop a good understanding with public, we want to exchange ideas with them, and we want to ensure that outcomes are very good so far as our administration are concerned. Now the idea is that I will not be in any relationship, even in a husband-wife relationship or in a friend-to-friend relationship or in a teacher-student relationship, there has to be ethics, there has to be some sort of agreed principles of actions, right? Only and only then can there be mutual trust, only then can there be a successful collaboration and partnership. Similarly, between the administrator and the public, there has to be ethical conduct on the part of public administrator. We have to be using correct means, true means, we have to be honest in our communication with the public. Why? Because as Abraham Lincoln is saying that you cannot fool everyone all the time. You may be able to fool some people, all people sometimes, some people all the time, but you will not be able to fool all the people all the time. To that extent, if a public administrator is not being honest, he will not be able to survive in his job, or he will not be able to do well in his jobs. The idea is that so let us be very clear that what are unethical actions, right? It can sometimes become difficult to describe ethical and unethical. So what is unethical? If you are suppressing unfavorable news, if you are misrepresenting facts, if there is conflict of interest, or if you are over promising, these are sort of unethical actions that you have to sort of avoid. Going ahead, this is the last part of my presentation, that these 7 principles of public life have to be observed, given by Nolan Committee of United Kingdom. So these 7 principles, ये आपको रट्टा होने चाहिए, समझ में आना चाहिए, इसके बारे में आपको 1 मिनट भी सोचना नहीं चाहिए. ये 7 आपको उस प्रकार से याद करना, आप कोई भी अपना शॉर्ट फॉर्म बना लीजिए उसको याद करने के लिए. और ये उसके यहाँ पर हमने आपके सामने डेफिनेशंस रख रखे हैं एक प्रकार से. सेल्फलेसनेस का मतलब ये है कि पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट में काम करना है. इंटीग्रिटी का मतलब ये है कि आपको अपने आप को किसी के भी ऑब्लिगेशन के अंडर प्लेस नहीं करना है, किसी के भी दबाव में प्लेस नहीं करना है. मतलब आपको किसी से भी सपोज कीजिए लोन नहीं लेना है, पैसा नहीं लेना है बहुत ज़्यादा, है ना। क्यों, अगर आप उससे कोई बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा ले लेते हैं, पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर रहते हुए करोड़ों रुपया ले लेते हैं पर्सनल ब्याज के ऊपर, तो फिर वो आपके ऊपर प्रेशर डालेगा आपकी ड्यूटी के दौरान, जो कि अच्छा नहीं हो सकता जनता के लिए, है ना। अब अपने लिए कोई भी फाइनेंशियल स्लैश मटेरियल बेनिफिट लेने की कोशिश मत करिए। अगर आप ऐसा करते हैं तो फिर आप अपनी दी हुई कुर्सी को, जनता की दी हुई कुर्सी का दुरुपयोग करने लग रहे हैं। एंड यू मस्ट रिजॉल्व एनी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट दैट मे बी देयर विद इन योर एक्शंस। आपको ऑब्जेक्टिवली काम करना है, एविडेंस बेसिस पे काम करना है, कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं होना चाहिए, कोई प्रेजुडिस नहीं होना चाहिए, अकाउंटेबिलिटी के साथ काम करना है। आपको स्क्रूटिनी के लिए तैयार रहना पड़ेगा। कोई भी टाइम पर अगर आपको कोई बोले कि चलो रात को उठ के आपको आके बोले कि चलो अपना अकाउंट खोल के दिखाओ दिखाओ तुमने ऑफिस में क्या करा क्या नहीं करा, तो आपको दिखा देना चाहिए। ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि वहाँ पर जाके कुछ चोरी छुपाना पड़े और फिर हम अकाउंट दिखाएंगे। आपको कोई भी टाइम पे रेडी रहना चाहिए, ओपननेस रहनी चाहिए। वापस से वही ट्रांसपेरेंसी वाली बात आ रही है, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन वी मस्ट बी readily be sharing with the public. Why? Because what is the point of hiding anything from public? It is for them. Everything is being done for them. There should be honesty. It is a very general term, and within honesty there comes all of these aspects of life. And of course there should be, you should be exhibiting some sort of a leadership within that. And in the forward slides आगे वाले lectures के अंदर we'll be discussing a lot what is the real meaning of leadership. So this is the second lecture of ethics. Moving ahead, we will develop the topic further. Thank you very much. Have a great day.